Real Madrid finds itself at a delicate crossroads after a sequence of moments that have pushed Vinicius Jr. from private frustration to a public display of dissatisfaction the club cannot afford to ignore. The trigger was a substitution at the 77th minute in a match that looked settled, a tactical choice meant to manage energy and protect a lead. But in the modern era, any visible reaction from a global superstar becomes headline news and a locker room story overnight. Vinicius walked off the pitch clearly unhappy and made that displeasure plain to fans, a flashpoint that underlines two entwined problems: playing time and a looming contract decision. In recent fixtures, he has not been entirely comfortable with the minutes he's been given, even beginning a major European match on the bench, and that discomfort now collides with outside interest from wealthy clubs in the Gulf, turning a brief on-field spat into a full-blown narrative about loyalty, ambition and money. What makes the situation combustible is not only the cash on the table, but the changing pecking order on the pitch. Xabi Alonso has built a side around a new focal point, and the arrival of a superstar in the team's front line has shifted how minutes are allocated. That rebalancing leaves Vinicius facing competition not just from opponents but from within, his compatriot Rodrigo pushing for minutes and the team's new hierarchy squeezing margins for error. When a coach makes the kind of substitution Alonso described after the match, a decision driven by control, match management and long-term planning, the player's visible reaction becomes telling. It exposes where egos and expectations no longer align. Alonso chose to address the matter by focusing on performance and the need to manage emotions, a measured response designed to diffuse headlines. But it is also an admission that handling temperament is now part of the manager's job at the highest level. For Vinicius, this is a moment of truth. The way he responds over the next weeks will determine whether this episode becomes a footnote or a turning point. He can channel frustration into work, accept rotation as part of a broader tactical plan, and force selection through training ground excellence, which would allow him to reassert his place and mend relations. Or impatience can accumulate, public rows can fester, and suddenly the narrative shifts from a one night of anger to a player unsettled, ready to listen to off. From the club's side, the calculus is brutally pragmatic. A star who is uncomfortable can affect morale, the dressing room's coherence and the board's calculations about long-term contracts and commercial value. The influence of an external offer, often discussed in market terms as astronomical, changes leverage. If a player gains leverage through demonstrated unhappiness, the negotiating table becomes more complicated and the club must weigh sporting priorities against financial realities. Fans are split. Some admire passion and want their stars fighting for playing time. Others fear unrest that undermines the collective discipline a dynasty depends on. Meanwhile, the team's broader momentum matters. If other players respond well, if Alonso manages minutes tightly and results continue, the incident will likely cool. If results waver and headlines persist, pressure amplifies. The wider picture is simple but stark. Elite football is not only about tactics and goals, it is about personalities, contracts and the management of expectation. In a club that has weathered countless storms, the difference now will be in detail. Conversations behind closed doors at Valdebebas, the tone of the next press conferences, and whether contract talks accelerate or stall. For neutral observers, the drama offers a rare window into the human side of the sport, where talent, pride and big money intersect, and a single substitution can illuminate fault lines. For Real Madrid, the coming days will reveal how deep the fissures run and whether resolution comes by quiet diplomacy or a far noisier transfer saga. Until then, every substitute board and every public comment will be passed as a sign, and the world will be watching to see whether pride or pragmatism wins out.